And here I am trying to meditate and stuff like that and look over at my wife, and she's just like standing there. And I'm watching her and she's not moving. And I'm like, what is she doing? So I walk over there and she's just staring at these damselflies, these emerald green damselflies, and just lost in this world. And I realized, my God, like she's she's in this super deep meditation. And then I started paying more and more attention, and it's like she just does it naturally, like a cat. You know, if you've ever watched a cat, it's like they're in a continuous meditation. Before trying to record, we were getting into some wild stuff. Where do you want to start? Because we had talked about John the Baptist. That was super interesting. Um, and then we had talked about Jesus was sacrificial. And because of that, like ridiculously sacrificial, he was like, yep, just gonna be crucified, no big deal. I mean, yes, he was crying blood in the garden, but so I've always been like, man, I want what Jesus had, but I don't want to be crucified. Like, even if it saves the whole world, I just I just don't want to do that. So what's the deal with that? Because it does seem like there was historical evidence that he actually was crucified. So that's kind of trippy that he literally agreed to manifest that, even though he had all the power not to. Okay, sorry. Didn't want to ramble on, but that's where we had left off. Do you want to start there or somewhere else?
Let's start there. One of the things when I'm exploring new ideas that I try to do my best to do is not throw the baby out with the bathwater and throw out the old idea, or act like I'm some super authority who knows enough to just discount something that has been strongly believed and interpreted for a long time. So instead, I like to introduce questions to it. Um, it's on my other podcast. I talked about when I was a kid. I had this gift from a very young age where uh, I could detect when people were lying. I still have it, obviously, but we were on our way to school on a bus from the daycare, and there were these two sisters that were talking about how Santa Claus, they saw Santa Claus reindeer land on their roof. And when someone lies to me, it's kind of like a buzzer goes off, and I just know that person's lying. And I was like, no, no, you didn't see that. And they were like, we did. And I was like, you're lying. And we got in an argument. And the driver of the school van that was bringing us her son, she used to bring her son on the trip, and he was a young kid too. And I was arguing about the idea that they didn't see Santa. And I wasn't at this point not believing in Santa. I just knew they were lying. And the van bus driver slammed on the brakes, pointed her finger, and started yelling at me. And I did the kind of cartoonish proverbial eye squint when I looked at her, like, I knew she was being disingenuous, but I didn't understand why. Like up until now, I believed in Santa because everybody who was an adult who I was supposed to trust told me it. But something slipped in her facade, and I saw fear, and I felt like she was lying. But I couldn't understand why is she lying? Now, in hindsight, she was doing it to protect her son because I was arguing about what she thought was the existence of Santa. Anyways, I said it about myself that I needed to know the answers, and Santa was coming to my school. That's why we were having that discussion in the first place. Needless to say, when Santa came, I pulled the beard off Santa in front of everybody. And I remember feeling a surge of triumph as I did that. Like, yes, I exposed the truth. And I turned to my class with this exhilaration, like, because I still didn't realize all of the adults were in on it, you know? I just thought I had exposed the truth. And I got in a lot of trouble for it. What I learned from that was three things, or what I took from that at the time, anyways, were three things. One, the majority of the people around me had been told a lie and believed it. Two, the people who were in authority, the ones that I was supposed to trust to teach me, were in on it. And three, for some reason, both the people who had been lied to and were shown something and the people who were doing the lying seemed to get very, very angry at me for uh, pulling the veil off of Santa's face, so to speak. So I've learned that there is value in exploring information with people. But I will go so far as to say, I said all that to say this. Uh, there, in my opinion, is an adversarial force that corrupts, perverts, and twists the truth. And my mind is open to the idea that there could be things that were allowed to be in the story and interpreted in such a way that it could, if accepted, prevent those on the path from wanting to continue it. Sorry for that very loose reply, but there's some things in there. I think there's a message under that. What I said.
Yeah, I really like that. Thank you. I was having a couple AV issues. I'm sorry, but I did hear most of it. I think the Bible. Yeah. So what you're saying is there are these patterns found within the Bible. How did they get there?
Here,
It
I'll
is
give you an example.
really weird.
So there's Jesus himself spoke about it was in the Old Testament, and Jesus referenced it, and then he added to it about why he spoke in parables, right? If there's a dude on earth who has answers and secrets to share with humanity that can help uplift humanity to that next evolutionary level, and he's not breaking it down in a super scientific way to them, an overly detailed way, then there must be a reason for the value in it. And he said, you know, they hear without, they listen without hearing, they see without seeing, they read without understanding. That's the beauty of a parable. So the parables are like, or an analogy or a metaphor speaks directly to people who have a level of evolved intelligence where they are able to have a knowledge of things, knowledge of self, knowledge of world to some degree, but also this ability to think abstractly and connect to the invisible divine. There is an invisible string that connects all things. If somebody has not evolved to the point presently to be able to access that extra sight, that third eye, to see the invisible strings, the parables are taken only literally. And in that, they hear without hearing. So I'm actually sharing a message now. That a whole story that I just did, there was actually a message in there. And so I was able to deliver that message using that what seems abstract or almost circular logic to answer your question, but embedded within it is something that for those who have ears to hear will hear what I said, but simultaneously allowed this message to be shared without triggering the programmed defensive responses that may be in those who have accepted lies, right? So it's like I learned at a very young age, when you expose a lie too harshly, you just you'll get persecuted, right? So there's a subtle way to doing it, and so I want to give you one more example with that. So take this story, right? The parables that are in the Bible with Jesus and things like that, right? There's a message there, right? I'm going to give a parable now, and let's see if you were to take it literally or not take it literally, which one's more valuable. Okay. So there's a parable, there's a frog, and there is a scorpion. The frog is just hopping along, and the scorpion comes up to the frog, and he's like, "Hey, man, I really want to get across that river, and you're a frog. Can you bring me across that river?" And the frog's like, "No, stay away from me, dude. You're a scorpion. You're gonna sting me." And the scorpion says, "I mean, yes, I'm a scorpion, right? But why would I sting you if you're bringing me across the river? If I stung you, then you'd die and I would drown. We both die. That would be stupid." And the frog, using frog logic, says, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. Why would you do that, right? So he says, "All right, hop on my back." So the scorpion hops on the frog's back, and the frog starts swimming across the river, and the scorpion stings him. And he's like, ah, at two, Scorpion. Why did you do this to me? And no, so the scorpion stings him. And while the frog is drowning and the scorpion's going to drown, the frog says to the scorpion, he said, why did you do that? We're both going to die. And the scorpion says, I'm a scorpion. I sting things. That's what I do. And they drowned. Now, if I wanted to convey a message to people who had a certain ability to connect the invisible, they can take from that story some value that they can apply in their lives in real time. So think of that lesson that you could take into your life about the scorpions that you might come across in the world, the wolves in sheep's clothing, right? You can apply that. Both of you did it right now, right? But imagine if somebody were to take it too literally. And if they take it too literally, they miss out on the message of the scorpions in their lives. They say, ah, got it. If I was ever a frog and a scorpion ever asked me to bring it across a river, don't do it. Right? And so that type of mentality is the mentality that I bring to the Bible. If something doesn't feel right, it could be because you're trying to squeeze the valuable, beautiful message in the story into a restricted construct of an old understanding that was accepted, that was from the adversary. And so the trick is to ask the creator to help you see the truth behind it, or sometimes, yeah, anyways, that's it.
That that was wonderful. Um, because there is this question, even the disciples were asking it. Why do you talk in parables? Like, why, if this information is so life giving, why have you buried it so deep? But then you're right. It's not necessarily buried deep. It's like almost like you need the code to get it. But here's what's weird too is all types of people could hear this podcast. We're literally talking about it being a code, and we can talk about the code. We can talk about what the frog symbolizes and what the scorpion symbolizes. But why is there this point where it seems like you're almost looking at a code in practically everything? Like it's whether you're in nature, in some religion, in physics, it just all kind of looks like a pattern. Um that all sort of tells the same story when you zoom out. That's creepy. But it's also creepy how blind I've been to it at different parts. Because when you see it, you're like, good. I mean, man, why did that take so much pain and so long to see? And it's not even like, okay, you could have explained the parable verbally, but when you see it, it's like it touches you in a different way. I guess that's the living word of God.
Uh, it could be seen. Yeah, I mean, I would say, in my opinion, that it is. And so, just think about when I did the scorpion and the frog parable right there, right? Both of you guys got it, right? Which meant that you're tapped into the invisible string that connects not just that story to itself, not just the message in the story, but you were actually able to pull that into yourself. I'll give you another one. So the story of Icarus. So the story of Icarus is there's a guy named, I think his name was Daedalus, which um, anyways, it means like good worker or something. If I remember correctly, they were imprisoned or something like that, and then he created wings so they could escape. Right. So they made these wings, the father and the son, and they're gonna go flying. And a lot of people know of one part of the story, but a lot of people don't know the other part. So one of the warnings the father gives to the son is he says, "Don't fly too close to the sun." Right? Most people are familiar with that. But there's another part of that I don't hear repeated often. And he said, but don't fly too close to the ocean either, because the salt from the water will affect your wings and will cause them to disintegrate and you will crash. If you go too high, your wings will disintegrate and you'll crash. If you go too low, your wings will disintegrate and crash. Too low would be if he's scared, right? So if he's too scared, he might fly too low to the ocean. But if he's too bold, and too prideful, he'll fly too high. Both end in the same result. And so that finding that, that narrow road in between the two is of value, right? So the thing is that story can be shared. It's a myth, right? So mythos, only more recently in the past several hundred years, took on the idea of being false. Mythos just meant storytelling, a told story, right? And so the thing with me that really helps me with reading scripture is I'm lucky, um, or blessed that I wasn't raised in any churches. All of the homes that I grew up in foster homes. I was adopted for a while and stuff. They were all agnostic or straight up atheists. So nobody told me who God was. That was a relationship I had to find on my own. And so for me, it made it a lot easier to look at the Bible. I started reading the Bible 5 years ago, and I only started reading it so that I could go debate with a pastor. And then I started reading. I was like, oh, and then it was like I had a key inside of me, so that when I read the words, I started to hear things underneath it. And the more I tried to find things to disprove, the more it proved itself to me. But the reason I think it was easier for me than it might be for some others is because I didn't have a bunch of constructs that were fed to me of the lies. I was able to look at it with fresh eyes. I was able to say, I don't care if any of these stories actually happened 2,000 years ago, or 3,000 or 4,000 or 6,000. That doesn't matter to me. I can feel the answer underneath it. So I would say the key, and I'll land here. For me, what made acted as my catalyst to wake up was I was completely disenfranchised with this world. I have my daughter, and I was living kind of for just her. Even though I had physically what I needed, I just was very disenfranchised, and I was in a state of extreme suffering. And so I called out to a creator that I didn't even know existed, and I said, "If you exist, I can't do this." And then it answered me, and then I started developing the relationship with that source, and that makes it a lot easier than if you have a lot of constructs, because you're trying to put new wine into an old wineskin. And as Jesus said, if you put new wine into an old wineskin, they'll shall burst. You must put new wine into a new wineskin. Some people might think that means, oh, so should I delete everything that I ever knew? Not necessarily, in my opinion. It just means that you must create a new understanding to hold the new information. If you try to take new information and squish it into an old understanding, and that new information is paradoxical to it, then you'll burst the old understanding. So it's create the new understanding, and then you can take the data sets from the old understanding. So for example, if you had an old belief about something in the Bible, like it meant that you're supposed to sacrifice, right? You don't have to delete that you once felt that, right? Just put it in its proper place. And instead of saying this is what it is, this is what I believed it was. And this was the result of how it affected my life believing it, right? So it's kind of like if you put your hand on a stove, and you burn yourself, you don't have to unlearn it. You know what I mean? You just have to realize when you put your hand on the stove, it burned you. You know what I mean? If you delete the understanding that you got, that you believed you could put your hand on the stove and it burned you, if you delete that, you just put your hand on the stove again. Does that make sense?
Yes. Kyle Miguel, who I've interviewed a few times on the channel, likes to say it in a way of like, pain is knowledge. Pain is potential knowledge. So it carries with it the potential for knowledge, because anytime you feel pain, you can have a revelation that what you're feeling is telling you to change. And so, yes, you're right. It is interesting how the old way, like the old mind, the old consciousness, would take sacrifice and make it a literal thing, as if their life depended on it. Gotta have this sacrifice. But the new way of looking, like the new way, is understanding sacrifice as a symbol. What does the symbol say? Because that's the divine, like that's the logos, that's the manifestation of this thing that we cannot see. the only way that you could see it would be in art, symbols, like things that can tell a story at a deeper level.
Exactly. And that's the challenge for some people, because it's like the, in my opinion, they say the wisdom of men is kind of folly, right? The old understanding. Paul says, "Do not be conformed to this world," which in that case is aeon. Do not be conformed to this age, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind. And then going back to that thing, because based on a prior conversation we had before this cast, you had alluded to what I believe is a similarity in thought of what I believed, and that was that to be called to the path of Christ, I must be selfless and sacrificial, right? And so I'm going to give two verses that support the inversion of that, or at least a different perspective. Matthew 12:7. If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. And then John 10:10. The thief cometh not but for to steal and to kill and to destroy. I am come that they may have life, and that they may have it more abundantly. Right there. You know what I mean? It's right there. So let's unpack it. So, if you want, I don't know if you wanted to bring it up too, so you could see it. But Matthew 12:7. Now, whenever the Christ says, if you know what this means, or something like that, before he says something, right off the bat, it gets me thinking, okay, it's deeper. It's deeper than what you might think, because if the statement seems pretty simple, right? But if he precedes it with, if you had known what these words mean, right? He's saying that there's a deeper layer here. Let's dive in, right? If you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. And so I want to kick this back to you, where and I want and I would offer uh, approaching this with yourself. Take all other people out of the world, just you and your relationship to yourself, to your character. If you had known what these words mean, if if you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. You want to take a gander at it?
Wow. Yeah, so I will, because grace, which I see in that verse, is the way that I got out of fundamentalism. Because if this divine being really wanted the blood of bulls and goats, like, how weak is that? That's not what it wanted, but that is the picture it wanted to paint. And so, I, you know, like, I'm not saying Jesus died for sins, but it's almost like it was such a cool explosion of this revelation, especially to Paul. Like, he seemed to be a great channel for this idea of grace. But that what God would rather do is just forgive sin than have all of these animals fucking dying. Like, what a crazy system. Like, only, and I'm not like a woke person, but only patriarchal men would like be stoning dudes for picking up firewood on the Sabbath. Like, what the fuck, man? That's some crazy shit. And so, like, I don't think that Old Testament should have ever been married to the New Testament. Those should be two totally separate texts. One is like, okay, this is what we thought God was. It was helpful in some ways, in other ways, super fucked. And then the New Testament is like, all right, we're getting some serious patterns, and we're getting the idea planted in our mind that God loves us. It's like, man, we take that for granted. But there was a point in time where I don't think many people thought that.
I agree, and I want to uh, throw that back at you again too. That verse. Um, so so if you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. So maybe to make it easier, um, let's aim it at other people. So let's say at first I'd ask you just to aim it at yourself, right? But let's do this first because this is how I found out how to love myself more is actually because I was very outward facing by understanding how I would treat others. That's how
Oh, great.
that's and I think we're similar in
Yeah,
this,
I've
right?
been needing that. That's been a tough one. Like I literally wrote to my therapist
No,
today
it
or
was
yesterday. But yeah, it's like, man, this self-love thing goes a lot deeper than I thought.
way
And
deeper, way deeper, and
way deeper.
it takes one to know one. What I'm saying to you, I'm also saying to myself, and these are things I'm working through myself, right?
Right.
Because I thought the answer of life was you had to choose from duality only, and I had a misunderstanding of the inversions, and so I thought that I had a choice, which is a catch 22. So catch 22, by the way, this is pretty cool. So Catch 22, the idea of it emerged during one of the world wars, either World War One or World War Two, and it was this thing: if you were a pilot and you wanted to be grounded, you could be grounded so you don't have to fly, um, if you were considered to be mentally unfit. The issue was, the catch 22 was, if you asked to be grounded because you didn't think you were equipped to fly, it indicated that you had concern for your safety. And because it seemed that you had concern for your safety, then you were mentally fit and so you could fly. So the only way that you could be grounded was to ask and be proven to be mentally unfit. But the very act of asking to be grounded showed that you were fit. So it was a catch 22. You couldn't get out of it. And so when we're stuck in between a rock and a hard place, the answer always lies in understanding that life is expansive. That is the nature of everything. It is always continuously expanding and growing. That's just what it does. So when you find yourself stuck in between what appear to be, and the problem is that what people do is they falsely attribute poles, right? They say north and south is this. And so all I can ever find is something between north and south. So to escape that paradigm or that box, you have to introduce a new element. And this is where God comes in, right? Where all things are possible with God. It, so the world that we grew up in taught us that we're in this kind of finite plane of earth and all that has been created has been created. We're just kind of playing around with what's been created, and that's bull. It's absolute bull. We were taught that the creation, at least from a scientific story, is that there was a big bang a long time ago, and we're just kind of playing around with that, but that doesn't actually explain time to us. In my opinion, time is the extra multidimensional element that is the expansion itself. So, for example, we're here right now. In a minute, we'll all exist, right? But we don't. That us a minute from now doesn't exist yet, right? Which means it hasn't been created. Which means that you will need to be created in the next minute, right? But it's not just you, it's your whole world is being created in the next minute. It's a resurrection. So each minute keeps giving birth to a new moment, right? And so when you understand that, it makes more sense when we look at Isaiah. Behold, I bring all things new. Do you see it? I will make a way in the wilderness and rivers in the desert. And so most people are living on this idea that we're on this kind of finite plane, and we think we put these restrictions on what God can do in our lives because we think that everything that can be made has already been made and just kind of on this planet. We're just kind of playing around with things. But when we just look at how time unfolds, we can recognize that. But in order to do that, we must transcend the old paradigm, the old box of what we are, and introduce God. And once we introduce a greater understanding of God, it allows us to escape the old paradigm. So what's the old paradigm? The old paradigm was this: catch 22. You have to choose between being selfless or selfish, right? That's it. That's all you have. I would propose that no, there's a third element where you can be self more. where you can both give to yourself in abundance and give to
Whoa,
your world.
whoa, dude. Okay, I gotta get this. So you said selfless or selfish. By the way, I don't think I told you, but I'm, I take some notes and it'll be up on the screen. So you said self more. Oh man. I love this because, see, we're actually getting into things that require new words because you are trying to articulate how do you leave those two things behind and find a different way. Right on, dude. What is self more?
So, so to do self more, you need God. Okay. And I'm going to show you. You want to see something insane? Um, okay. There are 7 deadly sins. And I postulate that there are 3 sins against yourself, and there are 3 sins against others. And then there's the one sin, quote unquote, against God. Right? Now, here's a beautiful thing. The 3 sins against yourself are inversions of the 3 sins against others. And if you live in an idea that you must choose between selfish and selfless, you will fall into sin. You cannot escape it, right? And that the only way out.
Wow, that's blowing my mind. Can we define those three? What are those? Well, seven. Can you
Yeah,
list those?
absolutely. Yep. You ready? Okay. So the 3 against self are, and by the way, I got this because I asked God and he just gave it to me, right? But anyways, so the 3 sins against self are sloth, lust, and gluttony. And to me, lust is seeking after instant gratification from things that don't bring value or productivity to your life, right? Not just having sex.
Well,
Because
what is gluttony? I see that as a form of lust.
gluttony is an overindulgence. Usually, it's actually, believe it or not, in my opinion, uh, based upon not being overly hungry, but actually it's a shame-based response. So a lot of
Whoa,
time,
so if I was greedy for money, the energy behind that is a type of gluttony. Like maybe I'm trying to compensate. That sounds so cheesy and like so fortune cookie like, but I'm seeing it. Like I'm seeing it how you could really try to patch up a hurting ego with power. I thank God I failed so much. I mean, that's one reason I've become thankful for my pain. You know, recently I told the divine, I was like, man, that was so fucking painful. But I'm just very thankful that I wasn't cursed with the pathway that some, like Jesus said, how hardly shall a rich man enter the kingdom of heaven.
he says, paraphrase, because it's just popped in my head. I could have something a little off. I can Google it if I need to, but pretty sure I remember him saying, "But all things are possible with God." Why would he say
Oh,
that? Anyways,
oh.
so let's go to the 3 things, right? So they're inversions, but it may not be evident right away. Okay, so it goes like this. So imagine, just for the sake of visualization, we're going to do 3 sins on the bottom. Those are the sins against self, in descending order, going uh, sloth, lust, gluttony. Okay, and then in the center we're going to put pride, and then they're going to do 3 above, and in ascending order, it's going to go greed, envy, wrath. Okay, and actually, it kind of looks like the menorah, which is a whole other thing. But anyways, so wrath is the inversion of gluttony. It's as weird as that sounds. And then lust is the inversion of envy. And I'll explain. My understanding, sloth is the inversion of greed. That sounds kind of weird, right? Why? Because if we live in a give or take mindset without God, that this world, everything's already here and it's finite and it lacks abundance. Like God can't just add new things, which he does all the time, right? Like there's new things introduced to this realm on a regular basis, but a lot of people just don't see it. They don't realize that it's literally new stuff is actually coming to this plane. You can see it on a very simple way with ideas. You know what I mean? technology and things like that. It wasn't here, and now it's here. But people think about it just in the intangible sense. They don't realize that it's actually literally physically he's resurrecting the world over and over and over again and introducing new components to it. But most people don't see that because they don't have eyes to see, right? So why would sloth be an inversion of greed? So both of those are they're sins. People look at them like they're actions, but I would say that I think a more holistically nuanced way of expressing it is they are states of being, all of which come from a place of lack, of finiteness, right? Of a lack of abundance. So why would sloth be the inversion of greed? And so the way I understand it is if you are going out in this world and you think there's only give or take mindset, you got to take from yourself to give to others because there's this finite resource, right? Or, and Jesus said a never ending spring, right? That you have to take from yourself in order to give to others. Or to give to yourself, you have to take from this finite resource from others to give to yourself. You have to choose between selfless and selfish. For those who have taken the path of trying to be more selfless, in order to do that, you had to devalue yourself over others. That's what you had to do. Now, here's the danger in that. You have a subconscious program that's designed to go out and live life abundantly so that it can go bring abundance to others. Like that, in my opinion, is the goal, right? But if you have a misunderstanding of the law and the principle of things, and you devalue yourself, your subconscious is now devalued. And so when your subconscious is devalued, it's going to think either it doesn't deserve to get good things in its life, or it doesn't have the capability to get good things in its life. So when there are things that you could be doing to bring more abundance to your life and therefore more abundance to others, you have a program inside of you that's trying to shut you down. Laziness is not a lack of energy. Laziness is a misappropriation and a perversion of God's energy used against yourself. What do I mean by this? Okay, so if I have to do the dishes and I don't have value in doing the dishes, or I don't think that I can be happy doing the dishes, I've devalued myself in some way. I have told my subconscious program that doing the dishes is dangerous. It's something to be afraid of. So when I walk over to try to go do the dishes, that feeling I have that's shutting me down and making me want to sit around and do nothing and be lazy isn't a lack of energy. It's the energy of God being used against me. It's like imagine the dishes is sending energy at me saying, don't do it. And so I'm like trying to use willpower to overcome the energy that I'm bending to work against me. But if I don't have that and I want to do the dishes, then I will. It's not a lack of energy, it's energy being used in the wrong way. So then when people are being, so the problem is your body is oh, it's a beautiful engine, beautiful design. It's designed to give you feedback, or what people could call a reward system or dopamine, telling you, hey, we're doing what God sent us here to do. So we get, so if you're aligned correctly and in harmony, you'll actually get excited, get up and clean your house and do your dishes, do all things unto the glory of God. You'll be like, yeah, I'm doing my dishes, my house is awesomely clean, I love this, right? If you don't do that, you drop down into the next tier. So now your body is not sending you the reward signals or the dopamine to tell you that it's on the right path. So the devil offers pleasure in ways that you didn't earn, and it can confuse your body. So that's where lust comes in. And lust can be lust for overwatching TV shows, eating candy, eating junk food, drinking, doing drugs, like whatever, right? And then if you continue to do that, you get even further from the past, and then you start to feel shame. And
Okay, let
shame
me.
exhibits self-destructive tendencies, which is gluttony.
Okay, so I've got to ask a question that's been on my mind for a long time. See, here's the thing. All of this spiritual stuff is so true and so powerful and so deep. But look, man, I'm just going to say it. Like, I feel pretty weak. Jesus seems so unmovable, like he was a fucking anchor, man. I mean, what's the deal? Like, if I go 24 hours without food, I could be struggling, man. Enough lack of sleep. Like, I just fucking lose it. Now, that that is changing. That is really changing. And like I said, I gotta watch what I'm saying, right? But still, like, I gotta put it in. I gotta make it relevant because these. There's a purpose behind these struggles, and I'm just wondering, like, why is so much power in such a weak vessel?
Are you speaking specifically? Is a question of why so much power in such a weak vessel?
Yes, it's frustrating that like my spirituality can be derailed if I don't get enough sleep. Like, what the fuck, man? You know,
Oh, okay.
I
All right,
kind
I
of
got
want to
it.
be more like an angel where I don't really need sleep and I don't really need food. Like it it's so humiliating that that well, Jesus didn't break, and I admire that. But it's like, man, I don't know. Like, I love spirituality and all these things, but that's the thing. Like, I trip myself up because I'm like, would I be crucified for it? I don't think so. Like, if I go without food long enough, I can get hangry, right? What is the deal with that? That you know, I do like this. Like, this matrix is so useful, but at some level, I get tired of it too. It's like, man, isn't there something that you can graduate to where you're just kind of done with the bullshit of the 3D? I guess that's death. Is that death? Can that happen sooner?
That's what I was waiting until you were finished. I was gonna be like death, right? Um, so all right. So when I was telling you I went on this trip, right? And when I went on the trip, I read some books about people that they kept talking about being sacrificial and things like that. And I realized that they both actually died of tuberculosis at a young age, and they suffered. And I was like, did they have a misunderstanding of the law? And as a result, brought on the very thing that they were thinking because they thought that being selfless somehow made them greater, right? Which is weird if you think about it. So that the thing that I'm in a transition right now where I'm realizing like God has basically said, yeah, dude, go live your life abundantly. You don't have to be selfless, which is like he had said it to me before. I wasn't applying it to myself for
I
some reason.
like that. Kyle, when I interviewed him, because I asked him the same question, and he just basically just stopped me in my tracks and was like, it's arrogant. And it hit me as being true, but I haven't quite seen that clearly. But the way that you're correlating, I took notes on this, it was blowing my mind. The way that you're correlating slothfulness and greed, I guess you could say like self hatred and greed are kind of the same thing. It's operating from lack. Oh man.
They all
Because,
are. They all are. And
well,
Jesus,
yeah, but like the reason that's blowing my mind is because greed is such a nasty thing. Like, we have the Christmas Carol. We have these stories, all these movies that portray how nasty greed is, but you don't think of self hatred as being equally nasty. But it's equally horrible state of
yes.
lack.
Which
Whoa.
when I talk to you, you open up so many channels, like, and I have to like pick one.
I
But I
know.
want I want
I'm
to go
taking
back.
notes like
So
crazy. Okay, so where are we at? Sorry.
all right. So okay. All right. I'm gonna go. I got that bookmarked. All right, I got them. I have like several bookmarks like floating in the air in the ether. All right. So I woke up and God put in my memory having watched a video on this guy, Bharati or something like that was his name. This Indian dude who had a wife and a child. And one day he was having some kind of what I think is an existential crisis, similar to what I had when I woke up. And he decided to leave his daughter and his wife and raise his arm up in the air for world peace and for Shiva. Right? So he did it, and you can look this guy up. And it was decades. He raised his arm and he never put it down, like, even when he slept. And like his arm ended up atrophying and just becoming a dead carcass, just stuck up in the air. It looked like a tree branch. It was disgusting. And he's even inspired other people to follow him. And God put that memory on my mind after this is after I read the books about the self-sacrificial people, and I'm starting to feel a tug in my heart that something was off, and then I woke up and I was playing that guy through my head. I was like, well, that's crazy. He left his wife and his child, who he made an oath, like made a promise to help them, and he decided to just raise his arm up for God, right? And everybody's like, oh, that's so amazing. He's so spiritual. And I was like, that's idiotic. And then God literally said straight to me, in which ways have you been raising your arm for nothing? And it brings to mind, there's a passage, I think it's James. Let me see. This one, some of them I memorized in the King James, but now I've been switching to NASB. So all right, ready. So this one is, um, if a brother or if a brother or sister is naked and destitute of food, do you say unto them, uh, be filled and be warm, but give them not things which are needful to the body? What does it profit? Faith without works is dead, being alone. And so you have this guy who raised his arm up in the air because he thought that that sacrifice was somehow going to appease God and bring world peace and things like that. Meanwhile, how many people could he have fed or brought peace to their lives if he had not understood it in that way and had both of his arms to use? Instead, he just inspired more people to raise their arms, you know what I mean, for no reason. So I want to go back to that thing that I said to you, Matthew 12:7. But before I do that, one of the things that helped me, Words, when I was dialoguing with God after that, was like I was attempting to help other people live their lives more abundantly, and I didn't understand what it meant to love myself because I still was kind of stuck in that selfless, selfish paradigm. And the way that I was able to start to learn how to love myself is think, if this person, if Veritas came up to me and was asking me questions, how would I respond to him? And I wanted to develop a relationship with myself similar to the way I would do with anybody else, right? Jesus says, love God first with all of your heart, all of your mind, and all of your soul. Then you can love yourself as your neighbor, right? He didn't say so you can hate yourself so you can love your neighbor more. They're equal, right? And so now that I said that, right, I'll direct it at the outer world for you, because I think you may have similar paradigms to what I was working and am working through. So let's aim this at the world, right? If Jesus came over to you and said this to you, and it was like, words, if you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. What would he be saying? What is he saying to you about how you should be looking at other people?
Oh, yeah, the ideal and the Jesus that I love, the reason I love him so much, even though I'm out of the church, is because of that mercy. And just those verses where it says he was moved with compassion. And it's almost like the more downtrodden and the more broken the person was from trauma, the more love he just poured out. He was so safe. Can you imagine like being like a gutter person and eating dinner with a rabbi at that point in history? My goodness.
So I just talked about in the latest podcast. When you're a baby and you're learning how to move, the goal is to get better and better equipped at influencing your world to live life abundantly, right? And to give to your world. In order to do that, you must first develop a proper relationship with yourself. And what I mean by that is with your body, right? Let's say, you want to go give food to people or something like that, right? In order to give food to people, you first have to have a relationship with your body. You can't work in a field and plant vegetables and harvest the vegetables and give people the vegetables to eat if you don't know how to use your hands, right? If you don't have a loving, proper relationship with your hands, right? So you learn how to move your body. Once you learn how to move your body, you can then now use your body to influence your world in more positive ways, right? So with that being said, um, the idea of being self-sacrificial is kind of like that guy who raised his arm for nothing, right? So, if you had known what these words mean, I desire mercy, not sacrifice, you would not have condemned the innocent. So if we were talking about a person outside of you, let's say you came upon Bob, and Bob has been living his life, and he's done a lot of sins his whole life, and he came to you and he's like, Words, man, he's like, I'm a good for nothing, I'm a loser, you know what I mean, like I don't deserve happiness or anything like that. You're going to give him advice, you know, and he's like, you know, I want to do this thing, and you know, I want to go, you know, get a property, get married, have kids, you know, bring joy to my world. Would you tell him, nah, dude, man, to be on the Christ path, you're going to have to basically sacrifice everything, and you know, you can't have a family, you can't have beauty, you can't have a farm, you can't have animals. That's not the Christ way. The Christ way is just sacrifice. You would you say that to him?
No, I wouldn't. It would be the dumbest thing ever. So
So here's a question:
why am
why have you
I?
said it to yourself?
I don't know. It's this fucking Stockholm syndrome or something, where I was raised in this very sacrificial version of Christianity, and for some reason I have that stuck in my head. But to be honest, all that's fallen away, man. Life has been getting good. Like I used to hate having 4 kids and working in the trades is a grind, man. Is a real grind, and I was in a dark place, in a real dark place. Like I said, I lost my spirituality completely, like completely, man. Just like stepped off the deep end. And yeah, what's interesting about this, as it came back, it was enjoyable in all the ways that mattered the most. Like learning to love the ways of children is so rewarding. Now, it's challenging, and every parent knows that. I'm not trying to yeah, it's a journey, right? But what I am saying is that you're right. Everything that you're saying has already been proven to me. I I think what you're saying is more of like a it feels like okay, here's another wake up call to see the same thing again. And that is that the kingdom of heaven, like it really is heaven, in that kingdom of heaven is this like super simple love, peace, and joy. And like if I can enjoy the now, like lock in, even having like, all right, practical example that I think will help of the kind of practices I'm doing and what I'm learning. My son, my fourth son, man, he's made it into some of my HVAC YouTube videos, and he's just so interesting. Neurodivergent, I would say, in a beautiful way. He loves to build stuff, just loves to build. And so I step out the front door, and dude, it's like I'm walking into a coal mine, man. There's mud everywhere. Every day he makes a full wheelbarrow of mud. I don't mow, like I never mow, because the yard is just like a graveyard. But so I see that, and like for that split second, that temptation was there to not like to hate that, because I'm walking through mud. Like my a house in my driveway just looks like a construction site. But then I took a breath, and I smelled that fresh smell of water and dirt, and I was like, man, this smells so good on a fresh spring morning. Because what he'd been doing is he'd been taking mud and like making a creek, so he would use the hose to wash down. I mean, man, I don't know how many gallons. Our water bill, man. But it's just so weird how anything, any little thing can be taken two totally different ways. In that one moment, I could have chose to be in hell with hating that I'm walking through mud, or in heaven by smelling that smell. It just made my day. I can still remember it. So these are the kind of practices I'm doing, and I'm pretty sure that just overlays with everything you said.
Yeah, it's funny that you just said the moment thing. And then I want to say one verse, and then I want to add to what you said about the moment. So then we had the other one, right? John 10:10. So so it was interesting when I first said to you, you know, if you had known what these words mean to aim it at yourself, um, you didn't. In my opinion, it didn't appear as that you were aiming it at yourself, right? Because yourself, your character, was innocent, just like everybody else's character itself, it can be nothing more than what it was created to be, but you can help uplift it, right? And so earlier I was quoting the Gospel of Thomas. Um, Blessed is the lion, that is the subconscious mind, the character, eaten by the man, the son of Adam, the son of God, right? So let's replace. So I'll say the scripture: Blessed is the lion who is eaten by the man, because the lion becomes a man. But curses to the man who's eaten by the lion, because the lion will become the man. So it's like our goal, in my opinion, is to uplift our character and take the reins of our kingdom, of our character, and so that our character serves us, and in serving us serves goodness, and as a result is served by goodness. So if we do that, when we take the reins, we consume the lion, but the lion becomes the man. We uplift our character to be divine, to be the son of God, from just being the son of Adam. But the inverse is true. If we don't take the reins, we can literally be consumed by our own character. So we can create these characters that we're not in control of, and eventually it can consume us. And now we forget that we're the son of God. We are just this animal man, right? But anyways, and then so the other verse was, the thief comes only to steal and kill and destroy. I have come that they may have life and have it in full. And so it's not just about aiming that towards others, or just thinking that Christ is only speaking to us. It's about us, in my opinion, incorporating that and directing it at others, but also towards ourselves. So we can use this discernment of spirits and ask, well, these paradigms that I have about this self-sacrifice, is that killing and destroying? Is that, isn't that what the thief does? And didn't Jesus say, I would come so that they may have life and they may have it in full? And then there's, I'm sorry, I lost the other bookmark. What was the thing that you had said that I was going to comment on at the very beginning?
Yeah, I got you. So, I'll go back to one of the first ones I noted. The rich man. There was also John the Baptist. There was the moment.
The
And
moment. Let's do the moment one real quick. And then I got the other two. Is that cool?
yeah,
Is that
yes,
cool?
please.
Okay. All right, this is really cool. You ready? So, I've been wanting to grow and be better every day, and I asked God some time ago to tell me what I want, and I was like kind of wishing for more wishes, and I was like, I want the best things, God. What are the best things I can want? Because even then I understood the value of desire, right? Bad things happen in my life when I desire the wrong things. Good things happen in my life when I desire the right things, right? Makes sense, right? And so basically, God gave me three things. One, I choose to be the best, to create the best life inside and outside of myself that I love the most. Number two, I choose to be the best, to create the best relationship to all things inside and outside of myself that I love the most. And number three, I choose to be the best, to bring the greatest value to my world inside and outside of myself that I love the most. So those are my three objectives in life. And so I keep growing those more and more and more. So, anyways, I woke up one day, and I'm always looking to improve, right? But I think God wanted me to have an even greater capacity to do so. So I woke up and I was wondering, how many seconds are in a day? So I looked it up, and in a waking day in 16 hours, you have 57,600 seconds. It's a lot of seconds, right? You also have what was it? Uh, uh, 1,440 minutes. And then I was like, okay, well, what's a moment? I thought a moment would actually be shorter than a second, but according to what I read, a moment was declared to be 90 seconds. So I was like, okay, all right. So how many moments are there in a waking 16-hour day? And there are 640 moments. And in that moment, after exploring that, I asked myself, to be honest with myself, the day before, which I had considered to be a good day, how many of those moments in that day before was I in love with my life for the entire 90 seconds? Like heaven on earth feeling. Dude, I can honestly say maybe there's a couple, but if I'm completely honest with myself, I can only be certain that maybe there was one. So out of 640 moments in the day before, with all of the growth and all of the achievement and all the improvement that I had done in my life, the day before, which had been, for all intents and purposes, what I would have considered to be a good day, only one moment out of 640 was I bringing heaven to earth for the entire moment. And so God set me on a new task of using some people say, which I do not agree with anymore, that there's only now. I think it's bullcrap, and I think it's very dangerous. There's now, there's the past, there's the future. like, but now is the interface to them. You have a relationship with the past, you have a relationship with the future, but your interface and ability to act upon both is in the now moment. But it doesn't mean you have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and say there's no past, no future, right? So what God did is He gave me a new tool to use to improve my life, and it was to be the best on a moment-to-moment basis, to be conscious and as aware as I can be to bringing heaven to earth for the entire moment. And something magical happened. I started to become. Uh, I'm using painfully, but it's not really the best way to say it. But it's not painfully, but whatever, painfully aware of just how unaware I was throughout my day. And the reason I only had 1 out of 640 is because I hadn't maintained an active presence for more than 90 seconds. And so when I set that new intention, it made it so that I started snapping out of it, so to speak, and waking up and being like, oh my God, wait a second. I could be loving this moment right now. And so I've gotten myself to about 6 or 7 in a day, and that could sound like disappointing. Oh my God, all this work and that's all I have. To me, it's exciting, right? I have so much growth that I can do, and so yeah, I'll throw that at you. See what that stimulates.
Yeah, dude. Um, I've been working on that exact same thing, man. Like, for example, I work in these buildings that, you know, I don't prefer. I really don't. I'd rather be in nature. But I take walks in between the buildings, and one of the practices I'm doing is trying to take my consciousness and like put it on the song of a bird, put it on this ray of sunlight and how it looks when it's hitting the bricks, like put it on the smell, put it on the trees. I've noticed that trees have this like, I don't know, like really quiet energy. Sometimes you can walk past one and they just draw you in for whatever reason. Like I don't, and it's not even like I'm getting some kind of communication or something. It's just like, wow, this living thing that's giving me oxygen. Dude, these moments. Yes, man. And see, that's why I'm asking about being free from the body. Well, no, you see, I mean, the body is the interface, but it's also like, it seems like the spirit, man. What you're locking in with the spirit. So I remember when this first happened. I was I was working on a freezer, a walk-in freezer at like a nursing home cafeteria. And I had to park pretty far away, and I'm walking across this field and it's blazing hot out and I'm working on the roof. But I look over and I saw this butterfly, and it was like I saw it for the first time. I don't, the only way I can put it is like my vision went from 420 to like 4K or whatever. It was weird. Like, I don't know what to say about that, but it was that connection. It's exactly what you're talking about, man. And it makes me so want. You know what I mean? Like, you get this craving because after you taste a few of those moments, you're like, fuck yeah, man. If I can get like even 100, even like 10 or 12, my God, dude, that's the kingdom. Like, that's paradise.
Well, it's funny what you just said too. It's almost like you could see it as like a Freudian slip when you said, I want to get out of the body, but it almost seemed like you kind of backtracked it, like almost as soon as you said it. Here's the crazy thing that I've been beginning to feel. Um, when we look at the what's said during a marriage, right? To have and to hold through sickness and in health till death do us part. What I've realized is my character is the feminine principle within me, and my character and the world, the outer world, is the feminine principle, and we're made both male and female. And the male spirit, it is like etheric, and it's full of ideas. And if it has an inappropriate relationship with the feminine counterpart, the character, they're kind of at war with each other. And I've been learning that I need to marry my character and commit to my character wholly. And what I've come to realize is, so think of, you could, one way to look at it is you could look at like your subconscious mind, which is it's like your life kind of. But as the spirit, we've been programming it wrong and then getting mad at it for being what we programmed it to be. And so when it find we so if and when I'm saying this to Sorcha or anybody else listening, I'm not when I'm indicating feminine and masculine characteristics, I am not indicating that a male is only the male one and the females are only the female one. We were made both male and female. So it's not to be confused necessarily with men and women, right?
Yeah, if
Uh,
I can interject just real quick, and I, I promise I don't want to derail you. This is just so good. In fact, it's so good. Like, like I feel like I'm getting a great spiritual workout. I mean, it's just taking, it's opening up so much stuff. Like I could like, I need to listen to this over again. I'm glad I'm recording it, but yeah, it's been interesting in my own life, like healing from my trauma. That was a strong feminine energy from a therapist that has been like, I don't know, like a mom to me. It's really weird. And then, even though she's not like old, but it's that energy. And then, like, my mentor is another older woman that, God, just accepted me. Like, I was, awakenings are kind of hard, man. And I think I was just flailing around because my personality too. Like I don't do the best with not knowing. And when this whole door cracked open, my God, dude, like I was I was really excited. And she just really accepted me. I had so much shit to work out, and I just kind of blasted her with a bunch of text and stuff I was processing. But that, man, it's been all feminine energy. It's crazy. There is such a heavy, heavy emphasis on the divine feminine right now. And it's honestly pretty disturbing, like when you see it and realize how healing and like good and full of life it is. It hurts me pretty bad to think about how heavily it's been suppressed. My God, dude. Like history has been really cruel to that energy. Really cruel. And so it's, it's a justice thing that this is happening.
well, yeah, and uh, the funny thing is when you said about getting out of the body. Right now, you're experiencing the body. I'm experiencing the body. We're all experiencing the body. And here's the craziest thing. One of the craziest things about it. You are tied to the body in sickness and in health, right? So you're tied to it. Uh, while you are here expressing yourself as this character, there is no escaping it. But here's the interesting thing: the more you try to escape it, the worse you'll feel. It's like uh,
Oh my
so.
God.
So here's an
Dude,
example.
that
So
just sidelined me. I see it. Yeah, you're right. Because you're hating what is, kind of, in a way. My God. You
there's something attributed to Einstein, and I actually don't recall ever looking up to see if it's true because it doesn't really matter to me. But, well, it does matter enough that I will look it up after this. But there's something attributed to him saying about relativity where it's been said that he said that something like 5 seconds on a hot stove will feel longer than 5 hours with a hot woman. And let's think about that for a moment, right? Isn't that interesting? And you can look at things in your life. When you are in love with whatever you're doing, um, time goes by faster, right? When you are not loving what you're doing, time seems to go slower. Why is that? Could it be that when you are not in love, you're like out of the body, like you're trying to escape the situation, and
Whoa.
and as a result, you're not escaping, you're actually making the suffering worse. But when you're there and in love with the moment, time flies. And could it be that our awareness of time, outside of like if you have a schedule, being aware of it in that respect, but being aware in the state of where time is moving slowly, is, in my opinion, the result of suffering. You're either waiting for something to stop or you're waiting for something to begin. Either way, it's a form of suffering. And so the interesting thing is if we ask ourselves, well, what would be some of the characteristics or the ingredients required, or results of being in love with the moment? And here's what it is. You ready? You are there. You are there. You are embodying life to such a degree that time flies. But when
Wow.
you're trying to escape, time goes slower. So you can't. You can't. It just gets worse. And so the trick is not
Oh
escaping
my
the body.
God.
It's to embrace the body, love the body, be there.
Yeah.
It needs you. If you try to escape, it goes into subconscious routines. Now, here's the problem. So, okay. So first off, I just talked about this in my prior podcast, my most recent one. There's a reason that happens. What the devil meant for harm, God makes good, and what God makes good, the devil tries to corrupt for harm. Right? The human body was designed in such a way that, to protect itself, it has a mechanism that if it gets in danger, it resorts to subconscious routines and patterns to escape. Because instinctually embedded in the DNA of the human animal is an extraordinary amount of data sets on how to escape danger. Because your character would not have been able, like your line would not have been able to survive if it didn't have some pretty significant appropriate responses to danger, right? Like that's why you got here. So in your instinct is a huge composite of excellent responses, to danger, and that's fight, flight, or freeze, right? And those work really, really well when you are in physical danger. You have another component that is connected to the creator, which is instead of fight, flight, or freeze, you could say it's face, feel, find, right? And so an example of where you would utilize that would be with an argument or discordant situation with a spouse, right? So in that moment, your job is to face it, feel it, listen, understand, ask questions, reflect, take your time before you react, things like that. That's very creative and it's building and it's transformative and it is excellent for the majority of interpersonal relationships that we have in our lives right now. Not so good if a bear is running at you to eat you. At that moment, trying to sit there and figure out a new way of doing things, to any significant degree, or to try to ponder or postulate what's the appropriate response, or trying to get to understand the bear's feelings, not very helpful. At that moment, it's probably in your best interest to escape, right? So, what does this have to do with what we were just talking about? In my understanding presently, um, what it means is that we're trying to use old wineskins, we're trying to use old ways of dealing with the world that are embedded in our instincts for present day, future issues. And it doesn't really work. It's trying to take the old and use it for a misunderstanding of the old. It's like trying to use some of the things you learned as a baby as an adult. It doesn't work anymore. You're not a baby anymore, right? So the issue is that the situations in your life that you had the most ineffective positive reaction to caused you pain and suffering. That pain and suffering from that experience is now tied to similar experiences. So that when you encounter that experience again, you have a misunderstanding that the experience itself will bring you pain. When the reality is, it was your reaction to the situations that caused the experience and the pain to happen. And that the best way to approach that circumstance is with a new understanding or a new response to escape it. But it's tough because we have so many programs that we've accepted in our mind that, we categorize them as if it's, an animal danger. And so instead of trying to face, feel, and find, we're trying to fight, freeze, or flee. And so that's where being present in the moment, to be able to take each moment and with God inside of us, helping us with our discernment and asking, and I don't think we have to worry if something, like, you can tell your subconscious, hey, if animals come or we're in danger and you need me to jump out of the way of a car or something like that, you do it. I trust you. You know what I mean? But a lot of these, experiences that we have right now, our responses to them don't serve. So I'm going to be present with us. so that when we have those type of experiences, we can reevaluate them, we can face them, we can feel them, we can find an alternative.
Veritas. Ooh, man, dude. See, I one side of me like could just keep talking about this forever because my mind is being blown, but it's like so much. It's so deep. Like I, yeah, I think I want to end it here because we're gonna do another one, and I want to keep this going. My God, dude, this is great, great stuff. Um, like it's good for me. I'm glad we got a podcast out of it, but all this stuff is super synchronistic too. I mean, basically what I've been thinking about, what I've been experiencing. Thank you. It was really validating and powerful. It's hard to take notes on, buddy. Um, this is just deep, deep stuff. You did a fantastic job explaining it. In fact, I'm glad it's recorded because, like I noticed with Kyle, another guy that I've really enjoyed recording, it really helps me out to even edit because I get to hear it a second time. This was this was great, man. Thank you. Do you have anything that you want to end with? I mean, and, finish up. We can go another 10 or 15 minutes, but I think the kids are up, so probably work on some breakfast and whatnot.
No, this actually works out perfect. I was gonna go to the gym today, but I felt called. It's like, let's do this. Let's do it
Yeah,
now. And
thanks.
I'm glad we did.
Okay, great, man. Awesome.
Man, this stuff that I share, I receive it. Imagine like when I walk, I like to walk to the gym. There's like a nice little lake near my house. I walk to the gym, and what like I'll just be walking, and it's my voice talking to me, teaching me. And Jesus said, "Don't consider yourselves rabbis. Don't consider yourselves teachers. Only Christ is the teacher." And like that's one of the biggest things that I hope to share with others is an understanding that can help them uh, tune into that radio station even more clearly and hear it, because that's really what it is. It's just imagine. I don't. No, I want to ask you this: does that mean like, do you ever sit there and you just someone's teaching you internally things you didn't know before,
Oh, for
or
sure, man.
are
I
you
mean,
aware
it
of it?
it would have to be because to even track with what you're saying, like, thank God I had the Christian background. Thank God I've been processing this stuff hardcore, man. I'm telling you, dude. I just sit there at work, man. I get a spare moment, my brain just goes into it because it's fascinating. And I think, yes, you're right. You really are right. And that kind of piece is totally in line with the feminine. And I love it. I've been working real hard to like take this masculine energy, but instead of using it to climb this mountain because I believe there's a pot of gold up there, I'm taking it with this feminine energy of like, because the feminine is caring. Like it wants you to prosper, it wants abundance, it wants health, it wants love, it wants balance. It's not that concerned about conquering, it's not that concerned about getting to a destination right away. My wife, I gotta throw this in there. I'm working on all of this spiritual work, right? And I took the kids down to the creek and I've been doing that a lot because I just notice how happy they are in nature. And here I am trying to meditate and stuff like that and look over at my wife and she's just like standing there and I'm watching her and she's not moving and I'm like, what is she doing? So I walk over there and she's just staring at these damselflies, these emerald green damselflies, and just lost in this world. And I realized, my God, like she's in this super deep meditation. And then I started paying more and more attention, and it's like she just does it naturally, like a cat. If you've ever watched a cat, it's like they're in a continuous meditation. And yeah, my deepest desire is to take the masculine drive and to take this feminine, I don't know what to call it other than beauty, and Yeah, you're right, man. That was the last point. We could do a whole separate podcast on the union of those opposites. Sorry.
I
I
no,
wanted
I
to give
actually
you
want
the last word.
well, I just want to. It's not about in that case. Not the last one. I just felt compelled because of what you said and how much I resonate with it. Um, so my girlfriend, it's the same thing. She helped to really help me ground. And like I'll sit there with her, and she'll be looking at a flower, and I would ask her. I was like, "So what are you thinking?" She's like, "Nothing." I'm like, "What do you mean nothing?" Like, so I'm looking at a flower, like just looking at the flower. Like me, I have this constant channel of just information coming in all the time. And when I first met her, I thought, like, I definitely misunderstood things, but like I thought, oh, I got to share all this information with her so she can think like me, you know. And while we do rub off on each other, and I do have more appreciation for flowers, we're made the way we're made, you know. And it's like we all have like roles, and that's the beautiful thing about being these individuations. And it's like I realize that, yeah, you know, um, she may have more of a stream of consciousness as a result of being around me, and I may appreciate flowers more, but I don't think I'm supposed to, nor was I ever designed to see the majesty that she sees in a flower, that it's so big to her that it's all encompassing in that moment. You know, I'm not designed for that. Just like a blacksmith is, you know, a blacksmith who's the best blacksmith, you know, chose to be a blacksmith and they're really good at that. And someone who's a florist chose to be a florist. And some of the attributes that make a good blacksmith would make a terrible florist and vice versa, you know?
Well, yeah, so in your, yes, in our natural state, see, I was traumatized by a lot of male energy, so I learned how to interface with the world with male energy because to deal with male energy trauma, one of the safest defense mechanisms for someone like me who's a masculine biological male is to develop that same energy to fight it. But I've been, man, even studying children, I've been, I've been watching children just sort of like wow me with their spirituality that they don't even think about at all. It's just built in. Yeah, man, it's good stuff. Well, thank you. Do you want to say a little bit about where people can find you? And then, of course, I'll put the links in the description.
Yeah, I mean, the link will be in the description if anybody wants to take a look at it. The series it's called Being Human. If they go on the YouTube channel itself, you can go click like on the podcast and you'll see all those just listed out separately. There are one that have like a little yellow icon. Those are the older ones. I've evolved significantly since those ones, and you know, I would say follow your heart. Which ones call to you? Just, you know, look at them and figure it out. But the ones that have the most recent and up to date information will be the ones that have the green tile on it, and that's the portion of the series that we've heard it said. Follow your heart if anybody wants to listen to it. If you want the most up to date perspectives, I would say starting with the green ones from the first episode on uh, is probably the best approach.
Thank you. That's awesome. I'm sure people are going to check it out. It's just a matter of time, dude. This stuff is powerful and potent. I love it. We're going to do it again, buddy. Thank you.
100.
All right.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day. Bye.
See you, brother. Peace.